What are you going to be volunteering with?
We're from Rochester, New York.
Oh,
So
okay.
Delia and I both are.
Oh, great.
And then
So you're not going to be down here volunteering?
No,
then,
up in New York.
Okay, great, great. So is UIF doing some sort of partnership or?
Rachel's mom,
Okay.
and through Rachel's home church, and that's where
That's where we're from.
how they're connected. Yeah.
Well, welcome. How long are you guys in Pittsburgh?
Just till tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. So you can come to church tomorrow?
Yep.
Great, great. Well, nice to meet you. And your name?
I'm Delia.
Delia. I love it.
Thank you.
All right, and
Lori
Lori.
Tepke. I'm going to work at King with first graders.
Okay, great. And Lori, when you're not volunteering with UIF, what do you spend your time doing?
That's a good question. I mostly volunteer
Great.
here and there. I'm a retired mom. How about
Okay,
that? My kids
that's
are grown.
great. That's great. And Bill,
Yes,
what are you going to be volunteering with?
I'll be back in first grade at MLK.
Okay, great, great. Back, so you're going to be with.
Second year.
Okay, great.
Plus I did summer day camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And when you're not volunteering with UIF during your days, where can you be found?
I get real cozy with my recliner, but I also spend an afternoon volunteering at Passivant Hospital at the main
Okay.
desk.
Great.
So I don't do a whole lot.
Sounds like you're busy.
I'm retired.
Well, I am Daniela Woolley. I am a reading specialist for Pittsburgh Public. I work specifically at Concord Elementary. So for anyone who spends their time in North Side, you probably never venture to my corner of the world, which is one of the furthest off schools. But that's where I've been camped out for the last 3 years. And when I'm not doing that, I am home with my soon-to-be 1-year-old daughter. So she keeps me busy now. So I have been working for Pittsburgh Public for now about 13 years. Started off as a learning support teacher, then an emotional support teacher, then 3rd grade teacher. My school closed. I had to find somewhere else to go, and worked for central office for a year. Decided that was not my cup of tea. Wanted to be closer to the kids, and so switched back to being in school. So that's in a nutshell what my career has been like. So I'm going to be talking with you all a little bit today about phonics and fluency. These are really broad topics. Specifically phonics we could be here for a week or a month. So I'm going to give you all some oversight about it, some quick tips, and then talking with Amanda, she shared with me that if you want to know more about certain phonics, you want to visit Beth, who's going to be talking about word building throughout the day. That's a real specific strategy on how to improve phonics, and specifically word reading. And then, who did you say was doing Norton Gillingham?
Barb Simple
Yes.
and Rachel.
Okay. So that is a even more in-depth, in detail approach to teaching phonics that is excellent. So if you hear all this and you haven't already signed up and or can switch where you need to go, they'll be telling you more about it. So I might briefly mention it, but I'm not going to go into those things now that I know that you guys could listen to that at a later point in the day. So before we get started, I want to pray, and then we'll start. Heavenly Father, I thank you, Lord, for this opportunity for us to be together today. Lord, I thank you for the dedication of each of these volunteers, Lord, to not only be at the schools and volunteering, Lord, but to be building their knowledge and building their skills to be able to help these students to the best of their ability, Lord. So I thank you that they're here on a Saturday morning, ready to learn more about what it means to support these kids in literacy. But Lord, more importantly, Lord, I pray for the children that they are going to be in contact this year, Lord. I thank you, Lord, that we know that you already know the kids that they're going to be with, and you already have a plan. And so, Lord, I thank you for divinely appointing them to this year, and this time, and this group of kids that they'll be working with, Lord. I pray that you would begin to open doors, that you would build strong relationships with them, Lord, that they would have the opportunity to show your love to these kids, and that more importantly than these kids learning to read, Lord, that they would learn something about your character and about you. And so, Lord, we give this time to you. I pray that it would be fruitful and that you would be glorified. I pray all these things in your name. Amen. All right, so I hate sitting here tapping. Okay, so here's kind of what we're focusing on today. What does phonics and fluency mean? What should students at each grade level know and be able to do? And once you know that, what can you do to help them? All right, so I want to know from you guys yet first. What do you guys understand phonics to be? I know you're going to be quizzed first thing in the morning today. Yeah, you can just shout that out.
Sorry.
I'm not that formal.
It's what the letters sound like when you speak.
Okay. Very good. Anything else?
Okay, that's right.
You're brave.
I
That won't be wrong.
usually am, so give a shout out there.
I spell phonetically.
Okay. So it's spelling definitely is involved with phonics. Anything else? Okay. All right. So first of all, okay. So it is the process of taking speech sounds and attaching some sort of symbol to that. Speech is a very natural occurring activity that occurs. You don't have to specifically teach someone how to express their feelings or their thoughts, their ideas. That is a very natural thing that happen. If you go into like, you know, when we think of like unreached people groups, when missionaries go in, they never have to go and teach the people to talk to each other. That's a very natural occurring thing. But what they might have to do then is then say, okay, this stream of language that's coming out of your mouth, for this to be replicated for other people, what we're now going to do is I'm going to start to attach some sort of symbol to what you're saying, and that attachment of the symbol so that we can then read and we can communicate beyond just two people talking to each other. And so that's basically what phonics is. It's saying, okay, all this stuff that's coming in my mouth, great. If I want to replicate it, then we need to be able to attach some sort of symbol to it. So the symbol that we attach to it is very arbitrary. It is governed by some sort of rules. English language is a really complicated one because we are governed by many different sets of rules. We borrow much of our language from other languages, and so it makes English can be complicated. Some people say, well, there's hardly any rules in English, which isn't really true. There are a lot of rules, but the problem is you need to kind of know where those rules come from. So phonics is simply like, okay, we all speak. How are we going to be able to replicate that in writing and in reading? So basically what you're doing is you're just teaching the kids the code of the language. We've developed a code, and so you're teaching them a code. And so you might also hear phonics. The new thing is people don't want to call it phonics, they call it decoding or encoding. So decoding is taking what you see and being able to then read it. Encoding is taking what you hear and being able to spell it. Okay, so people talk a lot about the code of English. So if our phonics is based on what we hear, then we have to make sure what we hear is correct. And so phonological awareness is the first layer that then phonics is built upon. So phonological awareness is only the sounds. And so that is what preschool, kindergarten teachers spend a lot of time working on phonological, because if a kid doesn't hear things correctly, there's no way that they'll then know how to attach a word, attach a letter to it or something like that. For example, my nephew, his mom sent his spelling list to me, and she was just like his spelling pretest, and she was just distraught because the word can, he had C-N-I, and she's like, how did he get C-N-I out of it? And so from looking at it, I told her, I said, he still has a phonological deficiency. He is only hearing the first sound of words and the end sound of a word, and then knows he needs to throw in another letter, so he just throws in another letter. So because he doesn't have a strong phonological base, his phonics is going to struggle. So phonological is the first aspect, and if you want to know more about phonological, Nada Jordan will be talking about it this afternoon, and Nada is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to reading. So that is the first layer of getting a child ready for phonics. As I said, that's a whole, Nada will be spending an hour talking about phonological, and she could probably spend 10 hours. With phonics, reading and spelling are taught simultaneously, because when you start to realize that there's a certain code, it's not that spelling is done as memorization, which if you're like me, spelling was taught, here's your list, and you're given it on Monday, you memorize it for the week, you come back on Friday, you try to write it faster than your teacher says it to just spit it out on a piece of paper, you've got it, you pass your test, and you're on for the next day, and you don't remember your words because it's just a straight memorization. When people start to realize how phonics and the code of English work, you actually teach reading and spelling simultaneously, because the child starts to learn that EA says E in the middle of a word. So therefore, when I hear a word like read, I know that I can either choose EA or EE. So, so that's why you'll see less of it being separated in classrooms, because people started realizing it's a symbiotic relationship, and so let's not teach them as in separate situations. So Louisa Moats is one of the gurus of reading, and she just says, learning to read is not natural or easy for most children. Reading is an acquired skill, unlike spoken language, which is learned with almost any kind of contextual exposure. So helping these kids read, and this is from one of her articles, Teaching Reading is Rocket Science. If teaching reading were easy, we wouldn't have issues of 50% illiterate, 50% kids not reaching benchmark by a certain grade level. I don't know if you hear about standardized tests, and and there's always the comparison of how American tests are with other countries and things like that, and it's a staggering, sobering statistic. And so, if teaching reading were easy, then anybody could get up and do it. The problem is, it's not. It's complicated, and so that's why we need people like you to come in to support with those kids who haven't gotten it, and so just needs maybe some extra exposure, some reinforcing of it. I'll just give a little quick. The reason I became a reading specialist is I started off as a special ed teacher, and I'd taken 2 classes about reading in my working on my degree, maybe 3, and my 3 classes didn't cut like what the kids were struggling with, and it really frustrated me. I'm thinking, I'm the teacher here, I'm supposed to get you to somehow figure this out, and I am stuck. And so that's when I decided to go back and get my master's in reading, and then have been able to then do the Orton Gillingham and some other things that have really opened my eyes to the complexity of reading. But now it's no longer this terrifying thought of you can't read. I'm just going to give you more to read. That's often what people try to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about what is expected at each grade level, so that if you're volunteering with certain grades, like what is a kindergartner supposed to do versus what is a first grader versus a second grader. So we in Pennsylvania, and especially in Pittsburgh Public, our grade level expectations are based on the PA core standards. The standards aren't a curriculum, but they tell us what a student should know and be able to do by the end of a grade level, and then we back map that into what looks like into the curriculum. So I've handed out to you, your second handout is a couple of the pages of the PA core standards. We'll take a look at that in a few minutes. But the PA core standards are broken into, they're called English Language Arts. So you have something called foundational skills, about reading informational text, how that is different than reading literature, writing, and speaking and listening. Then foundational skills are broken into book handling, print concepts, phonological awareness, phonics and word recognition, and fluency. And so this is where we're going to look at the phonics and word recognition and fluency. So let's take a look at how those standards are set up, just so that you have a quick look. Okay, so you should have a page that looks like this. I don't think it was your first page. Where's my handout? Oh, I gave you my handout too. Okay, so has everyone found their page? It looks like this. Okay, so phonics and word recognition. So it's your third page, or it's the third front side, but actually second page. Okay. So the goal, students are going to gain a working knowledge of concepts of print, alphabetical knowledge, and other basic conventions, meaning conventions of the English language. So in pre-K, you have pre-K, K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. So the way this is read is this is a continuum, or almost think of it as a ladder. So a child in 5th grade needs to know this, plus this, 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 and this. So you can look down, so you can see how, in pre-K it says they develop beginning phonics and word skills. So you want, in pre-K, they want them to associate some of the letters with the names and sounds. Notice it doesn't say which. It just means they're supposed to begin, hopefully it might be letters in their name. They might recognize how, what the letter is, and then the sound of some of those letters. And then identify familiar words. They come up, they see a stop sign. They've, started to gather that we stop every time, so they might start to realize STOP means stop. Okay, are they sounding out stop? No, but they've just started to put that together. So that's kind of environmental print, and they're starting to identify that. So that's kind of some of the goals of pre-K. And then you can see, so now, that's pre-K, so now kindergarten, they want to start to demonstrate one-to-one, letter-sound correspondence, associate the long and short sounds of common spelling of the 5 major vowels, read grade-level high-frequency words, and distinguish between similarly spelled words. So you can see how the rigor has increased, as we expect. Okay, so we're going to play with this in just a second, but let me help you out with some of the terms that you're probably going to come across. So here are some of the common words. Decoding, as I said, another way for saying sounding out. Oop, okay, digraphs are when 2 letters that have their own unique sound come together and make a new sound. For example, T and H. Don't say ta-ha-ha. They come together and they say th or th. Okay, S and H. Never say ha-sa-ha. Shh. Okay, so these are the common digraphs of the English language. WH, SH, TH, CH, CK. You don't say k. It's just one sound, and PH. So 2 letters that come together to make its own unique sound. Okay. Vowel teams, you're going to read that in a second. These are vowel teams, 2 vowels that are stuck together that make one sound. Notice AY, Y is considered sometimes a vowel. Okay, inflectional endings, ED, S, and ING would be considered inflectional endings. Some people call them a suffix. The more correct term is an inflectional ending. So like walked, the ED would be your inflectional ending. High frequency words, you're going to come across this in a second, mean literally they are words that show up with great frequency in our language. They show up over and over and over. Most of them are very small, little 1-syllable word, 3 to 4 letters. But if it will help you to read if you can read those with automaticity, read them quickly. So most of the time they're considered sight words. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't sound them out. But a lot of times they can be words that aren't. So here's what I mean. Can, am, and this are high frequency words. They occur in the English language at a high volume, a great rate, okay? These actually are all words that can be sounded out, okay? However, you would teach these in a different, where you might teach a sight word. Of and said and could are also words that show up a lot, so they are high frequency. However, a child cannot sound out of. They will not get of. They will get off, right? A child cannot sound out said, said, or said, okay? So these are words that have to be taught a different way than a word that you can teach them to sound it out and then you just kind of drill them for them to get faster at it. But all of these would be considered a high frequency word. So when you look in the standard in a moment, when you see a high frequency word, that's what these are talking about. So here's what I want you to do. So I want you, on your sheet, I want you to look at the grade level that you think you will be volunteering at, or just a grade level that might be of interest to you. We'll stay in the K1 and 2 range. What I want you to do is, for that grade, how this is going to help you. You want to look down one grade to see what that grade had to learn, and then look up one grade and see what that grade had to learn, and then look to see what's different in the grade band that I'm at. Okay? So take a few minutes to do that, then I want you to turn to someone near you and share what you think is the predominant important skills for that grade level, and then we'll share out as a group. Okay? Like lone one did kindergarten. What did you see as the some of the important things in kindergartners?
Trying to distinguish between similarly spelled words.
Right, so we were having the discussion of that is a really difficult skill, especially at kindergarten. And so then to prepare a kindergartner for that, you would be doing a lot with sound letter correspondence, with some high frequency words for them to start to see that. Notice it's not asking them to spell the words, it's just asking them to distinguish between. Okay, so that would be some of the pulling back on some of the rigors just to distinguish between. Okay. What about first grade? Who took a look at first grade? Taylor.
So what we talked about was kind of like the third paragraph down. It goes from them seeing words automatically to understanding like the inflection that should be used with them to almost like generating the words themselves. So it's kind of like a bump up each time.
Right, yeah, that's great to notice that progression of the challenge of it. Right. And then what about second grade? Take a look at second grade. Yes.
The main thing I noticed was that it kind of, like, the length changes. So it starts out in first grade with 1 to 2 syllable, and then by second grade it's just 2 syllable, and then after that they don't even talk about syllables, it's just like suffixes and things like that.
Right, right. It is the huge jump from the end of first. I mean, every year you think, oh, how's this, like, how do you get it from the end of one year to the beginning of 1 year? But, I mean, at my school a lot, we've been talking about the huge jump from the end of first grade to the beginning of second grade. And first grade, they're still doing a lot of 1 syllable. They might throw in a couple 2 syllable words, you know. But those are still very easy to decode. And then they show up in second grade, and it's all basically 2 syllable. And these poor little second graders we get into the year. Really, it's a huge jump for them, and it's hard. So, okay, so you guys have, oh shoot.
I feel like that's where like a lot of learning disabilities are probably diagnosed.
It is.
And for my son, that's when it was so blatant that decoding was a problem for him. And that's when they started to put his IEP in place because, you know.
Yes, you're right. And part of the reason is schools way back used to identify kids at like kindergarten. And then you assume, there's a lot of assumptions that have to happen. If you identify a kid at kindergarten, you have to assume that they've had instruction, that they haven't been able to respond to that instruction. And so part of it is second grade is like, if you've had a kid in a school, you know the instruction they've gotten, you know the interventions that are placed, you know that they haven't responded, so then you start to assume that you start to consider that perhaps there is a disability that is hampering their learning, yes. Okay. All right, so, I don't know why this is no longer showing up on my screen, but let's go with it. Okay. I don't know what happened. Here we go. All right. I don't know why all of a sudden it didn't show up on my screen anymore. Okay, so here's kind of some of the things that I pulled out. In kindergarten, they're looking a lot at spelling and sound and letter correspondence. That's what SL stands for. The spelling of short and long vowels, which is not easy. There, so you start bringing in those high frequency words. First grade, they're throwing in now digraphs and vowel consonant E words like gave, save, shape. And as we said, there are some first and 1 and 2 syllable words and inflectional endings. And then in second grade, you know, you're throwing in every long vowel, pretty much, and all the different spellings of the long vowels. At that point, it's really moving into 2 and 3 and multisyllabic words. We're looking at prefixes and suffixes. So you all pulled out, as you can see, there's the progression, and the progression is very steep. There is very little time to be wasted, and lots of things to learn. So now we're going to talk about, this is where we're going to get more into it, is now what can you do? So now that you kind of have okay, what is happening in kindergarten, what's happening first and second, what can you do? So this is where we're going to get a little bit more interactive. Okay, so if you are working with kids with sound letter correspondence, there are a couple things you can do. First of all, when you teach sound letter correspondence, a great way to teach it is to say the name of the letter, a keyword that includes the sound, and then you do the sound. The reason is, if I see A, but I cannot remember that automatically A says ah, I can, if I learn a keyword, it will trigger my memory. And so you will often see the teachers in school, the kids, especially kindergarten, they'll say A, apple, ah. And so when you ask a kid what letter is this, they'll say A, apple, ah. And you're probably thinking, really, we don't want them as adults saying A, apple, ah. It's kind of like training wheels. The kids, as soon as they start A as ah, they drop the apple. But it's a crutch, so to speak. It's a scaffold for kids to make that connection, right? Because a lot of times, especially with vowels, seeing the name of the letter is not going to cue you on what the sound of the letter is. Ah does not sound anything like A. Okay, so a good thing is to do some letter sound, is to do letter keyword sound. So you might say, if I were working with a kid who was struggling, I'd say, okay, we're going to review some. I'm going to say it, and then I want you to say it after me. So A, apple, ah.
A, apple, ah.
Very good. You guys are great students. B, ball, b.
B, ball, b.
Okay, you want to make sure you clip b, not b, because then kids start going b, bow. Okay, so B, ball, b. Okay, so I say B, ball, b.
B, ball, b.
Don't do what I did, which I thought I changed up the order, but I didn't. E, elephant, eh.
E, elephant, eh.
Okay, so this would be a way to introduce and a way to do quick review. With kindergartners and with first graders, a lot of first graders are struggling, especially with short vowels. Short vowels, even though we teach them first, sometimes are the hardest to learn. And so this can be just a quick 30-second, 1-minute drill. You don't even have to hit every letter of the alphabet. You can rotate, but it's a good way just to get the kids start to thinking about it. Once you are confident that a kid knows all the letters, you can play a game called Lights Out. To play a game called Lights Out, you would need to have all the letters available to them. I think you guys are do you guys have the little tiles, or they have like the little magnetic letters?
Yeah.
Right.
The foundations.
Yeah. Right, okay, you guys do have, right. Okay, so, for those of you who have volunteered, those who haven't, in Pittsburgh Public we have, they're called the Foundations tiles. That's just the company that does, or the program. But it's every letter is on a tile. So you have all the letters facing up, and then you say, okay, we're going to play Lights Out. Okay, and so I say, I'm going to say a sound, I want you to say it back. It is imperative that the kids say the sound back to you, because you want to make sure they actually are, again, this is part of the phonological, you want them to make sure they're saying it right and hearing it right, especially, but anyway. So then you would say, ready, I'm going to say the sound, say the sound, okay, flip over the tile or tiles that say the sound, turn the lights out is what we say, because one side is black, so then the kid turns over a C. If they're a first grader, they're also, and later on in kindergarten, they also might turn over a K. If they're a first grader, they've also learned that CK says K, so they've turned over 3 tiles that say K. Okay, and then you say, all right, turn the lights back on. You know, and so then you say, all right, let's give, the sound is, everybody, turn the lights out on the letter or letters that say, okay, and they flip over. I mean, to you and I, you're thinking, that's really basic. How is that exciting to them? To them, it's an amazing game. You know, it's another way, rather than just having a flashcard, you're practicing the sound, and they get to turn the lights out. Call it a game, and they're thrilled as can be. Okay? Again, you would not teach using Lights Out. You would teach using some sort of flashcard, but you can review with a game called Lights Out. You could also review with a letter bingo. Put a bingo board out, you know. Cover up the letter, you know, with a bingo chip that says, Make sure the kid always says the sound back to you, and then cover it up with the chip. Okay, so this is just some ways to continue to reinforce the skill and practice the skill with kids who like games, and you know that most of what they do is games, so you kind of need to change things up. Okay, so let's talk about decoding words. I'm going to say word building, and then I'm going to say if you want more about word building, you can just go see Beth, because word building is a lot. But that is a very useful way in helping kids decode. So we'll move into dictation. So you need your pen, and you need to be able to write somewhere on your paper, okay? So here's how you would do dictation. Number one, you would already have a list of a couple words that you want based on some of the sounds that you know they know, okay? And so in dictation, this is more of a checking than a straight instruction. So word building is instructing. Dictation would be what you would do maybe after some word building to check on what you've been doing with them. So let's say I taught to you, or we reviewed the letters M, T, A, O, P, and we'll just stick with those. Okay. So we've built some words with it, and so now I want to see what you are now able to produce. Okay. So I would say, all right, we're going to spell some words, but before you do it, I actually want to see you do it with your fingers. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to say a word to you. My word is map. Again, I want you to say it back to me, and I don't want you to write yet. My word is map. Say the word.
Map.
Okay. Now, tapping is a very useful skill, and you'll learn more about it with Orton Gillingham, to make sure it's a somewhat of a quick multisensory approach to helping kids separate sounds. So I would say, okay, so we've said our word map. Let's tap it together, and we're going to tap one finger for every sound we hear in the word map. So we're going to say, tap it with me. Okay. Now we're going to orally spell it before we write it. The reason being, I do not want you, if you write it wrong, it will take me 3 times as many times to unteach you the wrong way than if I could check with you before, okay? So after we've tapped it, now I'm going to say, let's spell it. We're still spelling by touching. So map, we've tapped it. Let's spell it together now. M-A-P. Great. Now let's write it. And you would write M-A-P. All right, I'll speed the process up the next one. Okay, so we did map. Let's do the word pat. What's my word, everybody?
Pat.
Okay, let's tap it together. Let's spell it together. P-A-T. Great. Let me go ahead and see you write it. And then they would write it. Okay. All right, I want you to make a mistake on this next one. All right, the word is mop. Say the word.
Mop.
Okay, let's tap it. Okay, good. You guys all have strong phonological awareness because you at least all told me the sounds. Now, someone would make a mistake. What's the first letter? M. Come on, make a mistake, guys. Mop. Somebody tell me a wrong letter. A. Thank you. Thank you, Taylor. All right. Taylor, let's go back and tap that. Can you tap that mop again? Okay, so you said ah for this sound. Do you know what our letter keyword sound is for ah? Ah. O. Oh, I'm sorry, so ah. So octopus. And so our letter is O. Okay, so let's now tap it together. M-O-P. Okay, great. Now let's write it. M-O-P. Thank you, Taylor, for being willing to make a mistake. Okay, so the first thing, if a kid makes a mistake, you want to double check that they said the right sound. Okay, and we say ah. Okay, what do we know? What is the letter that says ah? Does A say ah? No, we know at kindergarten, first grade. We haven't learned schwa. A says ah. Okay, so right, so it says ah. So what letter do we know says ah? Remember octopus O. Okay.
And but what you're saying is you want to catch the kids before they write it.
Exactly.
If they're going to make a mistake, that's fine, but go back and do it orally before you do it.
Exactly, because as soon as you start putting motor skills to it, you are putting it in their head the wrong way, right? That's why when you see a kid copy their spelling words 3 times each, and then they've copied them wrong 3 times each, like you just want to pull your hair out. I mean, number one, don't make a kid copy this 3 times each, but because then it's going to take you 9 times to unteach or unlearn the incorrect way of doing it. So, okay. Any questions about how to do dictation? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 3 words that you're going to practice doing dictation with people. So here's your word: pat, hop, and pop. Okay? I want each of you to take, here, I'll give you another word, mat. Now you each have 2 words. I want you to, Michael, maybe if you can turn around and partner up with Taylor beside you. I hope someone wrote those words down because I don't remember them all anymore. What were they? Pat, hot, pop, and mat.
I know.
Don't do what I did, which is come off with them off the top of your head. Okay, so Taylor's going to work with Michael. Everybody else has a partner. Take 2 words to practice being the teacher, and then the other person has 2 words. Okay, go ahead.
So we do it to each other?
All right, I'll start.
Okay.
So,
Good idea.
You have to practice too.
yes.
Fortunately for her, she's not a kindergartner. Any observations, any challenges, anything that seemed easier?
Matt and I struggle with the A and O differentiation.
And that is we were saying that is really, really common for kids. I was checking a kid's spelling the other day. He had like all these other great things, and he was constantly confusing A and O in short vowel. And we were saying E and I is another very confusing. And often when a kid messes up E and I say, look at my lips. My lips are wider. I kind of wrinkle my nose. You know, you want them thinking about, most of the time when kids are spelling it wrong, it's because they're actually forming the letter wrong in their mouth. So if a kid says something, make that sound, look at my mouth, look at your mouth, and then maybe take a second, where's your tongue? Where, is it touching the top? Is it, have you dropped it? But talk for a second about how your mouth is formed, or the shape of your mouth, because that is often why children are misspelling.
So should we have a little hand mirror that we take
That'd be great.
with us?
You can also put an app on your phone, a little mirror app on your phone, and just stick it up to them. Some programs actually give you not a class set, but it's only small groups. They'll give you little mirrors to use with kids, and one of the programs says show the kids how your mouth is moving and let them double check. So yeah. Great. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about sight words. We're going to talk really fast because someone else is teaching more about sight words. But first thing, sight words. Remember, I said sight words can fall into 2 categories. I'm sorry. No, high frequency words can fall into 2 categories. I'm talking about just the sight words. These are words that cannot be sounded out. They cannot be read phonetically. So, because of that, you need to do a multisensory approach. It is best to start with gross motor and move to fine motor. Think about, once you learn to ride a bike, you never forget how to ride a bike because it's gross motor skills. So you want to attach gross motor skills, then move to fine motor, which would be something similar to writing, to help a child learn. Okay, so multisensory approach would be to help them learn, and then you could review with flashcards later on. Okay, so for example, let's see if I have. We'll go with could. Okay, so with the word could, I would show the kid, this is the word could. Okay, the word is could. I'm not going to say we're going to sound anything out. I'm going to say the word is could. Okay, now we're going to spell it with our bodies. Okay, so put your arm out. Please put your arms out. Once you're full, this is gross motor. If you just use your fingers right now, this is fine motor. We're trying to build gross motor, okay? We're going to spell the word could. We're not saying the sound. We're actually saying the letters of the names of the letters. So let's spell it. Ready? C-O-U-L-D. Okay? Then you can tell a kid, okay, close your eyes. Picture, what's your favorite color? Paint. Mine's red. Okay, we're going to picture this red paint coming out. Let's do it again. Remember rules of 3. We want to try and do things 3 times. Ready? C-O-U. I want to hear you say it. L-D. D. Why am I asking you to say it? This is another. You're hearing yourself. You are doing. You are visioning, and you are seeing and envisioning, and you're also using your muscle. So that's how you have a multi-sensory approach. It's going to help you learn it much better than if I hold this paper in front of you and say could. The word is could. Say the word could, okay, and give you another one. All right. So after you've moved to gross motor, then you say, okay, we're going to write it. Okay. Most kids don't want to write with pencil and paper, so try and make the writing more interesting. We're going to write it on the table. Writing on the table is also better because, again, the pads of your fingers are more multi-sensory than just picking up a pen. So now we're going to write could. I'm going to take my 2 fingers together. Could. We're going to write the word could on our table together. Ready? C-O-U-L-D. Very good. I heard Taylor saying the letters as he wrote them. I want to hear you say them. Let's do it again. C-O-U-L-D. The word is could. Okay, so now you've moved from gross motor to fine motor. So after you've done that,
Well, what if they get it wrong?
if they say it wrong,
If they spell it wrong? What if?
okay, then we're going to spell it again.
Okay.
You just do it spell again. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you say, look at the piece. You want to have the word in front of them. You don't want them, and you don't want it to be just straight oral. So you say, let's
Okay.
look at it. Yes, Bill.
What if they spell it C-O-U-L-E? I had a lot of students.
Yeah, B and D reversal.
That would get confused easily with the B's and D's.
Right.
And I tried to give them a rule to follow, but I'm
Did you tell them to make their
not a
bed?
trained professional.
Did you tell them to make their bed? That's one of the things. You make your bed B and D. So I said could.
Okay.
This is your D.
Thank you.
Bat before the ball is B. I'm sorry. Yeah, bat before the ball is D. It's not hole before the door is D. I don't know that one as well. I know make your bed. That's what I tell kids all the time. Make your bed.
The bed thing is cool. I wish
yeah.
I had known that.
And there you go.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Once then you have done some gross motor with a kid, a fine motor, then you can move to a flashcard. You've been building up words with this kid. So then we can say, okay, the word is, at this point then I'm just saying, okay, Taylor, what's this word?
Could.
Very good. This is not a sight word. Sorry. I should pull that up right.
Let me ask you a question. Like for couldn't you phonetically say the letters?
Meaning if they learn O-U-L-D says ud.
Yeah, or just like
If I sound out could at each letter, I'm going to say could. If they learn that O-U-L-D together says ud, there are only 3 words in the English language that are could, should, and would. And so that's a kind of a useless rule to learn. The useless knowledge is in the head of a reading specialist. So it's easier just to teach a kid, like, this word is good. As opposed, because they're, unless you teach them O-U-L-D says ud. But there's too many other things that say ud that you don't want to mix them up with.
or just say each letter. I mean
So how would you sound this out?
K, L, D.
Right, so that's not really could. And O-U doesn't typically say O-O says
Okay, I was trying to do each letter separately.
Right. Yeah, but if you get that, you're not really getting the word could. You're getting, because the L is not really heard in the word could. Cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, correct.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. Okay, so someone read this word incorrectly. Haze. Okay. All right, Kay. Let's look at this. The word is has. Let's write it together on our table. H-A-S. Has. Okay, you can write it on your friend's back, something like that. Okay, so if a kid does it, you just say the word is has. Let's write it together. Okay. Man, I always run out of time. Go fish is a fun game to play after you've built up some words. You know, throw them in, pull them out. Again, if a kid misspells it, say, or if a kid misreads it, correct it then, put it back in, you know, and they can pull it out later.
Go fish. So you're not talking about go fish with two people having cards. Give me your card that says this.
No, go fish meaning if you had the cards down.
Okay, go
Kid-
fishing. Okay.
Yeah, kid pulls up. Maybe
Okay.
it's not, you know, pulls up. I say could. If I say the word right, I keep it. If I don't say the word right, we fix it right there. I put it back. It's my partner's turn. to pull the
Oh, okay.
card. Yeah, just some attempted gamification. Okay. Man, there's always too much to say and not enough time to say. All right, we will talk. All right, so now let's talk about fluency. Do you guys know what fluency means when we say fluency?
Reading without stopping.
Okay, great. I always say, kids, it's reading like we talk, right?
Okay.
The goal is to read in a way that we speak. We don't talk slowly like this to each other.
Right.
We talk with expression, where there's feeling, we take a pause. Okay, so fluency is reading like we talk. So it's the ability for them to read sounds, words, phrases, and sentences with automaticity. So when my best analogy for fluency is thinking about the very first time I got behind the wheel of a car when I had to drive, right? I had watched my parents drive. I'd wanted to drive for forever. It looked very easy. So I got in the car the first time, I'll never forget. I'm driving in my parents' neighborhood, and my dad says, turn down this road, turn to the right. And all of a sudden, what I had seen my parents do thousands of times before, all of a sudden I'm like, shoot, I need to turn, I need to brake, I need to turn turn signal on, right? It was a mess, okay? And so, because I was not fluent, I had not practiced it. Now hopefully, if you ask me to turn right, I would, be able to do that much more smoothly than I had done before. So the reason fluency is important is because it frees up, in a sense, a kid's brain space, right? Because reading, the goal of reading is not just to sound out words. The goal of reading is to comprehend, and then to have a discussion, to be able to think of new ideas and things like that. So the goal of reading is comprehension. So fluency is kind of the thing that brings them along to comprehension, automaticity. So once you have learned the code, the goal is to get faster at it so that your brain space is freed, in a sense, to be able to think about the concepts and the ideas and the stories in which you're reading, as opposed to, oh shoot, here's this word. Okay, the letters, they make some sound, those sounds together. I've got the word out. Finally, I got to this next word. Finally, it gets to the end of the sentence. What's this about?
No.
I have no idea. Right, because their brain is worried about too many other things, okay? So fluency, in some sense, can come naturally, but sometimes you need to explicitly teach them fluency. And so we're going to talk 2 seconds about how to develop some fluency. And by the way, you might hear in the schools I'm talking about dibbles. That's how, it's a test that we use to measure fluency, because a child who's fluent generally ends up being a child who is a proficient reader. So that's kind of an indicator, and so those are used a lot. 1 minute time breaks. Okay, we're going to skip that for right now. Okay, so here's what you would do with some fluency. With automaticity, so automaticity is kind of the first step of fluency at the word level. So you could do flashcards. You could get the kid to a point where you want to do some fluency just at the word level. Okay, so you might tell the kid, okay, hey, look, we're gonna read these words. We're gonna read these words going across. The first time you want to read with them to make sure they're accurate, because the worst thing is trying to make a kid fast and they're reading the wrong word fast over and over. So you would read it slowly to make sure they're accurate. Say, okay, I'm gonna set the timer for 30 seconds. We're gonna see how many words you can get done in 30 seconds. Okay, so you set your timer. The kid starts going. Wow, you made it. Halfway down the page. That's great. Okay, we're gonna try it again. I'm gonna go for 30 seconds again and see if you can get a little bit past where you were before. And so with fluency, it's practice. And so the more you're practicing it correctly, the faster you're going to get. So you know, okay, you made it to the second. Okay, we're gonna do the third time. The third time's charm. Okay, we're gonna do. So again, we're gonna go back. You're rereading. You're not giving them new words. You're rereading. That's what builds up the fluency. You started again. You made it through the whole thing. Great, fantastic job. Okay, so reading. So you can first start with fluency at the word level. At kindergarten, your fluency is at the sound level, sound letter level. You want if a kid can say the sound fast, that's fluent. Then, you know, at the end of kindergarten, you can bump it up to the word level. In first grade, you're working at the word level. And then later on in first grade and in second grade, then you're working at the sentence level and the passage level. And so a great resource is, the internet working here? I don't think I have the internet. A great resource, I'll just tell you to write this down, is called F, as in fun, CRR.org. Stands for Florida Center for Reading Research. And they have a million resources about anything reading-wise. So I'm going to show you like how you could, and the things I'm showing you I printed off just off of there. So, okay, so if you take a look at this, you can see that it starts off with one word, then moves 2 words, then 3. Okay, so you can see that this is building up. It's a repeated reading. It's building up. Okay, so you would help the kid. You know, you say the. All right, mine's the boys. The boys started. The boys started to. The boys started to worry. The boys started to worry and. The boys started to worry and get. The boys started to worry and get scared. So by the time I have completed that one sentence, I have read boys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. Okay, so it is increasing my fluency because now I've read it correctly. You know, you check before that they've been reading it correctly. And then I am seeing it in repeated succession, so this is helping it go in my brain that this is the word boys. Okay, so then you would work. You could do this is like one sentence each, and then it turns into the passage. So now they've read every sentence in this passage, but it was a lot less intimidating to be given this sentence and work through a couple of sentences and then go to the passage. Okay? All right. Sorry, I was hoping you guys would have time to do that, and I always talk too long. So, all right. So any quick questions about fluency? Another thing is, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Reader's Theater. You can always Google Reader's Theater. It takes stories and turns them into like a little play. Kids like that a lot because it's not reading the whole story, it's reading a different part. There are a million Reader's Theater scripts that just take stories that they already know sometimes and then turn it into cute little plays. Those are better to use if you're doing it with a group of kids. One-on-one, that might be a little difficult to use. Okay? All right, so let's come back to our questions. So now I want to ask you, what does phonics mean? Taylor's not allowed to answer because he answered at the beginning.
It's the sounds.
Attaching a sound and a symbol. Very good. Okay. What is fluency?
Ease of reading or pronunciation.
Very good. Ease of reading, automaticity, right? We're reading like we speak. I will not ask you what they need to know at each grade level, but hopefully seeing that you have more of a perspective of what should be known at grade level. And I hope that now you have some sort of strategy. So before you leave,